Hello, everyone. We are here working on our Common Ground essays for our very last unit. And I want to take this time to offer up this little presentation here that hopefully will help you all out. And this is going to be about organizing your essay, specifically how to use your annotations chart and how to arrange an outline for this essay. So the topics chart is going to be a pretty challenging part of this essay, but I think that everything that we do from this point on in terms of working with a text is going to be centered around the use of the topics chart. So it's a good idea for you to get a grasp of how to effectively use it in order to help you analyze information. We're going to be looking at two different essays here for this particular essay that you're going to write. We're going to be looking at two different articles, and they're both going to be concerning a debate on a particular topic of your choosing. You'll have to pick two articles, two essays. You'll have to read them, analyze them, break them down. And the best way to do that is to use a topics chart. Okay, so let's go through this and take a look here. First off, let me point out that I'm going to break this down for you, so don't panic right now. I know this kind of looks difficult, but I'm going to try and break this down for you so that it makes sense, hopefully. Let's look at the very first part here, which is the features of the argument, and you'll see that we have two columns following that, where we have Essay 1 and Essay 2, and basically that refers to the two essays that you will be researching, looking up, and you'll be working with. Under those columns, you should be writing the means of argument, which I'll cover later on, and where on the essay or the article the evidence is located. What paragraph, what page, what have you. Okay, just a reference so that you know where to look up the information if you get lost. Pretty self-explanatory. The first line is the authors. Okay, so you'll just write the authors in the Essay 1 and Essay 2 column. The issue, the position, the argument, counter-argument, and common ground. Those are the features of the argument. And then we look down here and we go to motivating factors, which are values, ideology, ideals, needs, interests, fears, concerns, priorities, agendas, binary thinking, and other factors. Now, I want to point something out before we move on. Motivating factors are not necessarily what you see here. There's a reason that there's other factors at the bottom of the list here, and that's because depending on what you read in those articles, you'll come up with different motivating factors for why writers are writing what they are writing. So I'll cover that a little bit more later on here in the presentation. Okay, so first off, let's take a look at features of the argument. The writer's defining and describing the issue that is the focus of the debate. So you're going to be looking at this, looking for it within the first 2 or 3 paragraphs of the essay. And this is as simple as, just finding keywords, an analogy, an anecdote, an observation, a scenario, something that is defined by the author. The history, the importance of the issue, the seriousness of the issue that is being debated may be discussed by the author. That's how you'll be able to identify what the issue is kind of looking through these, looking for these things, keywords, examples, so on. Okay, the next thing is the position. So the question is, what is the position of the author, right? Are they making are they making some kind of an argument for something, an arguable assertion? And of course, it's just as if you were writing in your own essay, what is that writer's arguable assertion? And are they telling you why that arguable assertion is important? Most writers do this when they're trying to write a position paper or an argument paper. Next is the argument. Okay, so what's the author's reasoning for the argument? Sometimes they'll state it. Sometimes it'll be a little more subversive. Sometimes it'll be a little more hidden. You might have to kind of sit down and think it through a little bit more. But all writers have a goal of trying to convince readers, that their argument is correct. And of course, for the common ground essay, that's definitely true. The next thing will be the counter argument. So this is the refutation, okay? And I think we discussed this in class. It's the yes, but, right? So is the author refuting or conceding an argument, okay? Or are they resolving? The writer attempts to resolve a difference with an opposing position or to find common ground on the issue. If they're refuting, the writer attempts to refute, right? If they're offering up a solution or an action, they're just that. They're writing up a proposal to a solution or a problem. They advocate some kind of action being taken. So the counter argument may take a couple of different forms, but for the most part, in order to find balance, even in the most biased essays or articles, a writer will include some kind of a counter argument. You're going to want to try and locate that if you can. And it's that yes, but statement somewhere in the article. Next is the common ground. So in which of these arguments do you see the possibility for building common ground between these two authors? I mean, that's really what's at the heart of this essay anyhow. So you're going to want to try and establish that rather sooner than later, okay? All right, so let's take a look also now at motivating factors. So there are ways of asserting a position, okay, and these are, of course, the possible topics that you'll be comparing in your papers, and they're different motivating factors, okay, involved. So values, what arguments are being based on morality or ethics or religious values, okay? Values are very closely associated with ideology or ideals, okay? Cultural, the legal, the political ideals that are being discussed and argued in an article. Okay, next is needs and interests. So what arguments are being made based on what the author perceives to be a societal need? What's the author saying is in the best interest of society is what that addresses. Fears and concern. Of course, a lot of what you read nowadays is meant to provoke fear and concern about things, about certain issues. So what arguments are being made based on the author's perceived fears? What do they think might happen if we don't take action concerning this particular issue the way that they're saying we need to take action on the issue? The next thing is priority and agendas. Another thing that you'll often see is the, agenda. People write from agendas. That's just a reality, I guess. So what does the author mean to accomplish by convincing readers that the argument is correct, that their advice needs to be followed? The writer might come out and state or might, subversively imply that there is a cultural or a political agenda. So you'll want to look for that. And there's a lot of hints too that you can pick up on, such as who the writer is and what organization they're writing on behalf of. And I'll talk about that in a little bit here also. The next thing is binary thinking. You'll recall, perhaps some of you, leading up to the invasion of Iraq, and George Bush famously said, either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. Well, that's a form of binary thinking. That is to say, you are either with us or you are against us. So the argument is saying, look, or the author is saying, look, there's only one possible solution to the issue, and this is it. There's no other way around it. This is what we have to do, and that's all there is to it. That's binary thinking. That brings us to the other section. Well, there are other factors that may drive the way an author thinks. What I've offered before this are simply some of the more common motivating factors that you may find in an essay or an article. This is, these can be anything. I mean, you can come up with these, and you should try to do these on your own. Don't try to limit yourself to what you see already written on the table. Okay, U.S. ideals, patriotism, okay, the ideals of freedom, equality, democracy, things of that nature, okay, the moral and the ethical, right, particularly religious beliefs. Seems a little redundant to what we already spoke about, but this is more, about those religious beliefs, what's their religious background and why are they arguing. We'll see with one of our essays from the book that there's an author that takes a particular stance for religious reasons. Okay. The other is legal. Court cases. Are they arguing from the standpoint of U.S. law or the Constitution? The other one is what's gained, what's lost. So if we don't take action, what could happen, or what might we gain if we do take action? It's very similar to who gains and who loses. Okay, what groups will benefit, right? The public good. Again, another thing that's very relative to who gains and who loses, but it's a little different in the sense that this is concerning public goods, policies, conditions that benefit society in general. All of us will be much more better off if we do, X, whatever it is that they're trying to argue. There may be an attitude, and I mean attitude in the sense that they might have some kind of bias or a dislike of a certain thing, and that becomes clear as you read. But that will be a motivating factor. Specific topics, well, this is, again, these are topics that are very specific to the debate. You won't see them here perhaps listed, but again, I challenge you, if you will, and I would say that it would be a really good thing for you to try and think outside of these little boxes and try to figure out a way in which these things change, okay? Means of argumentation. This is something else you're going to want to list under essay 1 and 2. Statistics, research. Are there examples, anecdotes, observations, cause or consequence? All of these are means for argumentation. How is the writer specifically bringing this idea out? You're going to want to list that. You're going to want to see if you can try and figure out how they are arguing and where it is they're arguing from, okay? Again, this is all, these are additional ones. Opposing, are they resolving, are they refuting, are they thinking of a solution or taking an action? All of these things are ways in which people argue. Your job will be to try and figure out how it's being done. So let's take a look at an example. So this is, if you recall from the earlier part, this is what essay 1 and essay 2 might look like. So we have listed example, paragraph 3. Okay, so the writer is making an argument using an example on paragraph 3, the writer from essay 1. From essay 2, they're using a statistic from paragraph 2. Now, this is, you can see how this is all kind of lined up here. There may be examples where there is no argument being made from one essay to the other. In that case, you would just write none. There may be more than one argument being made. That's fine. List those also, how those arguments are being made and where you can locate them. So this is what it might look like if I were to complete one. And we could use this one here as an example. And we use our authors. These are all kind of just made up, okay? We'll look at the issue of inner city poverty. One of our writers, I've named Stewart, the other one Jones. They both have two different positions. They both have a different argument that they're coming from, or different types of argument and evidence that they're using. We have a possibility for common ground being, the concern for the poor, or one author might have a different idea, which is not only the concern for the poor, but U.S. economy. That may be where they're coming from as well. And of course, there are the motivating factors, which we have plenty of examples here. And I've made a couple of them here, so you'd see that, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you see on the topics chart that you print out. You can come up with different ones yourself, okay? I'm going to cover this a little bit more in part 2. So please click on the link for part 2, and I'll cover the outline as well as going through the examples that we saw here. I'll go through these a little bit more. Keep this in mind. I'll have it on the second slide, but this will be continued in part 2. So please click on the link from the class website and try to follow me there, and that's where we'll pick it up. Okay, thank you.